Hello, everybody. If you are following a higher protein diet and you're not seeing any weight loss or your weight loss has stalled, there are a few things or a few mistakes that you could be making. And I wanted to go over those today because once you address those mistakes, it's pretty easy to break through a plateau. And it's something that I've seen with a lot of my clients. So today I'm going to be sharing why you might not be losing weight when you're eating more protein, but also 6 things that you could do right now in order to break through that plateau. Okay, if you guys are new here, my name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance, and we're in week 5 of the 6-week summer challenge, which is like bonkers. These always go by so fast because they're just so much fun. But this year we're following our brand new limited release 6-week summer meal plan. It has over 50 brand new, absolutely delicious recipes that are really focused on high quality sources of protein that are really rich in protein as well as fiber and fat and the micronutrients to help support not just a fat loss goal, but also a long-term wellness goal too. It also has over 100 pages of really amazing science-backed tips and information, along with the 6 weeks meal plan and the 50 recipes. It is only available for like 2 more weeks or a little less than 2 weeks actually. So if you want to grab it, once you own it for life. But it's only available on our shop for the next couple weeks. So you want to grab it before it's gone. I have it linked down in the description below. Like I mentioned, it's what we're following during the 6-week summer challenge, but you're more than welcome to always use this information and the recipes beyond the challenges themselves. Okay, so let's dive into the information today on why you might not be losing weight with a higher protein diet. So there's really 3 main reasons. There's of course other possible reasons, but I want to go into the 3 main ones that I see happen all the time. The first is that you could be eating the wrong protein. So this comes down to the type of protein you're eating, and within this category there's like 4 different types of wrong protein you might be eating. So it might be just a poor quality protein across the board. This is measured with the DIAS score. So it's digestible, indispensable amino acid score. Not something that you need to remember. Just know that it's what scientists now lean on when they are determining if a protein is high quality or not. So when a protein is low quality, it gets a low DIAS score. And when it gets a low DIAS score, it basically means that your body can't use it in the same way and you can't get the same benefits from that protein that you would from a higher DIAS or higher quality protein source. So bunch of different like higher quality ones. I have so many blog posts and so many videos on this, but just to list off a few high quality ones, there's any type of like Greek yogurt or skyr. Obviously like whey protein is great. And then like beef, lamb, chicken, fish, all pretty much almost all of the animal-based source of protein, eggs, another one, are going to be high DIAS. There are some plant-based ones and there are some vegetarian ones as well, but you do have to be more specific on which ones you're choosing because there are a lot of plant-based, very, very low DIAS proteins that could not be serving your goals. I do have a full list in the 6-week summer meal plan that we're following right now, so make sure you check that out. But like I mentioned, I also have a ton of videos on this as well. Okay, the other type of wrong protein you could be having are like a lot of processed proteins. So examples of this would be like fake meats. So like the Beyond Meats or some of those other like fake plant-based meats, protein bars, meal replacement drinks, the high protein cereals, high protein chips and crackers, all of those. The reason why this one isn't as supportive of your goals is because when these proteins are so highly processed, it's also usually paired with other really highly processed foods too. And when you are just eating mostly ultra processed ingredients, it's not as satiating as if you were to be getting it primarily from the whole food source. Adding in a scoop or 2 of whey protein powder, a high quality one, into your smoothie is entirely different from having something like a Slim Fast shake, where it's almost, or if not all, entirely ultra processed ingredients that are not going to stimulate your satiety hormones as much as if you were to put something like whey protein powder in a smoothie that also has chia seeds and maybe peanut butter and berries and Greek yogurt, these more whole food ingredients that have been found to really stimulate your satiety more, especially together, than these ultra processed ingredients. And then the other type of wrong proteins you could be having are those that are either higher in carb or higher in fat than they are in protein. So usually it's going to be the plant-based ones that are higher in carb than they are in protein. You can think of things like lentils or beans, grains. They're usually going to be a lot higher in the carbohydrate count than they are in the protein. And they're usually a low DIAS protein, which means they're not high quality. So in order to eat enough protein to be eating higher protein from these foods, you're eating a lot of carbohydrate as well. Same thing goes with higher fat types of protein. So these are usually like the animal-based ones. It's usually if you're relying on things like sausage or bacon, or if you're relying on all your protein coming from things like milk, where it's not a super concentrated source of protein. It's a lot higher in like the fat, or in milk's case, even carbohydrates, than it is going to be the protein count. So it does take a lot more of those foods in order to actually hit the amount of protein you need. So the third or second reason why you might not be losing weight while you're on a higher protein diet is if you're not eating enough protein. So this is one where it just depends on the individual, because, you could be eating what is considered high protein for one person. Like for myself, the what's considered high protein intake for me is not considered high protein intake for my husband. And that's because the protein amount is based on your weight and your activity level. So it's really individualized based on you and your goals. So, like if my husband were to eat the amount of protein that I'm eating for a quote higher protein diet, then it would be considered low protein for him. So he's not getting the same benefits. I do have a free protein calculator that is linked down description below. If you want to check that out, highly recommend it. It's a great free resource so you can get an idea of how much protein you actually need. Because when it comes to eating more protein, it's not like a set amount that you need to eat a day, or rather per person. So it's going to be dependent or change from person to person. And even throughout your goals, as your goals progress, it could change too. So just revisiting that protein calculator is a good resource that you can check out to see what you really should be aiming for. And then the third reason why you are not losing weight with a higher protein diet, or the third main reason, is pairing your higher protein intake with ultra processed foods. So, really highly ultra processed foods. Even if you're eating primarily whole food protein. So, let's say like you're eating chicken, you're eating salmon, you're eating beef, you're eating Greek yogurt and eggs, but then you're pairing that really high quality protein source with high sugar or packaged treats or sweets or a lot of baked goods or crackers or chips, that can really counter the satiating benefits that the protein has and make it so you're not actually going to see the results that you want. So you want to make sure that we'll be getting into what to do next, but that's just something to look out for, are the ultra processed foods that can really sneak in. And I think because of the rising interest in eating more protein and seeing how much it can really help from a fat loss and wellness and even satiety perspective, there are a lot of companies that are capitalizing on that and creating a lot of just ultra processed full meals that are only using ultra processed ingredients. And really, that's not going to have the same impact as if you were to have the whole food protein instead. Okay. So now let's get into things that you can start doing today in order to start seeing results, which if you guys are following or eating more protein or trying to eat more protein, let me know in the chat, because I'm curious what everybody's aiming for, or if you're actually aiming for like a certain amount of grams per day, or if you're just generally looking to eat more protein and trying to like sneak in more higher protein foods. I'm just curious about like what your approach has been. But in the meantime, let's go into things that you can do to start breaking through your plateau. The first one is to actually determine your protein needs. So, eating the right amount of protein for your goals. Like I mentioned, the amount of protein I need is so entirely different from the amount of protein that my husband needs. It also is different depending on your activity level. So, if in the past you were not very active, but now suddenly you're doing things like exercising, going on long walks, you're strength training, you're lifting, that will increase the protein demand on your body, because protein, also protein, but protein is used in order to repair the muscles after a workout. So it's really just used to repair all of your tissue, not just your muscles. So when your body's under a state of stress, and that could be stress from exercise, it could be stress from lack of sleep, whatever, or from an injury or illness, your protein needs tend to go up. So that's where knowing the amount of protein you need right now for your goals is very important. So again, check out, I think I have it right here. Yeah, there's the link for the protein calculator. If you guys want to check it out, this is what it looks like. It takes like 2 seconds to fill out. And you can always revisit it and see if your needs change over time. But that's a very, very great free resource. Okay, the next thing that you could be doing is to evenly split your protein. So once you actually know how much protein you need, let's say it is like 90 grams, just because that's going to make my math very easy, then you want to make sure that you evenly split that protein between 3 meals. So your breakfast, you have 30 grams of protein, your lunch, you have 30 grams, and your dinner, you have 30 grams. That way you're getting not only the stable blood sugar level, and you're going to have more stable energy levels as a result, but it's also going to make it so you are much more satiated and satisfied. One approach that a lot of people will use is they'll try and split it up into like 6 small meals, because they assume that if they are able to eat 6 times throughout the day, then they're not going to be as hungry as if they were to have 3 meals throughout the day. This actually has not been shown to be true in literature. It's also something I have personally not experienced. It's what I've seen with my clients is not to be true, that you feel so much more full and so much more satisfied when you eat that same amount of protein throughout the whole day, split between 3 meals instead of split between 6. And my theory is that you are able to get fully satisfied from that one meal whenever you do eat, that you're able to go about that 4, maybe even 5 hours between meals feeling satisfied and you don't feel hungry. Versus if you were to try and split it up between like 6 meals, then you're always like not fully getting satisfied from your meal. You're always just a little bit hungry. And that can make it so that you're feeling like you're fighting your hunger all day and you need to be eating every hour or every 2 hours. So sticking to the 3 meals that have the protein evenly split, and then making sure that you're pairing it with the other foods like we talk about in the 6-week summer meal plan and really all of my programs, with enough of the high quality fats and fibers, and even depending on your goals, the different types of carbohydrates, making sure it's well balanced with that too, so that you're getting full, you're getting satisfied, and it makes the whole fat loss process so much easier, and you don't get cravings that way, which is very nice. Okay. And then number 3, the third thing you could be doing right now to break through your plateau is to stick to the best protein sources. So remember, we talked about one of the reasons why you could not be achieving your fat loss goal, or you could be at a plateau with a higher protein intake, is because you're just not eating very high quality protein sources. So there's a bunch of different low quality protein sources you could be having. They could be poor quality from a diaz perspective. They could be ultra processed, or they could just be low in protein compared to the fat and the carb count. So what we want to do is focus on those that are very high diaz, that are very, very high quality, get that high quality score, and then also ideally nutrient dense. So again, I have a full list. I think I have it on here. Yeah. So on page 71 of the new program, I have full list with like amounts and everything that you can check out of the different types of proteins, including plant-based and vegetarian. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you are really familiar with the different protein sources that are going to fit this need, so that you can structure your meals around those that are going to best serve your goals. And then you can also, like I said, always check out, I have a blog post on high diaz proteins. So you can check that out too. Just type into Google like Autumn Bates high diaz protein, and I think that blog post should pop right up. But if you do want that more like complete list, it is in the 6-week summer meal plan. I do have that link down description below. Remember, it's a limited release. It's only available for a really short time longer. So grab it before it's gone. Okay, number 4, the fourth thing that you could do is to balance your fats and carbs in protein. So we want to, again, you can check out page 71 for a full list, but we want to prioritize the proteins that have more protein than they do the carbs and fats. It's not that you can't eat foods that have both protein and carbs and or fats, but we want to make sure that when we're looking to increase our protein intake, we're primarily looking at those sources that are going to contain more protein than they do the carbs or the fats. So that would be something like having, like if we're looking at dairy products, for example, it would be like having Greek yogurt, skyr, or cottage cheese versus having something like cheddar cheese or whole milk as your main primary protein source at that meal. It's not that you can't have cheddar cheese or whole milk included with your meal. It's just not where we want to be getting the majority of our protein from, because it's not very high in protein compared to the other like carbs and or fats. So we want to prioritize those that are going to be higher in protein so that we can actually hit those protein needs. Again, you can check out page 71 for a more complete list of those items. And then the fifth thing you can do is to cut out protein meal replacements. So I'm specifically using this term meal replacements because meal replacement shakes have gotten so popular over the years. It's different than just like a protein shake or somebody might like just take protein powder and dump it in some water or milk, shake it, and then have that post workout. These are intended to be complete meal replacements just in powder form. And it's very hard, arguably like impossible, to make a just whole food meal replacement shake, like one of the prepackaged powder ones, because you just can't really, I mean, it's inherently going to be ultra processed to get it down to just that fine powder for all the ingredients. So we're talking about things like Slim Fast or some of those other like high protein scooper type of meal replacement shakes that are supposedly balanced with fat and carbohydrates. Usually, if you look at the ingredients, those carbs and fats are coming from things like vegetable oils that are going to be more inflammatory, or they're going to be from like just sugar like dextrose or high fructose corn syrup, these cheap sweeteners or just sweeteners in general as the carbohydrate source. Brown rice syrup is another one to get the macronutrients like quote balanced, but it's all from these ultra processed foods that are not going to be as supportive of your goals. So instead, that's where you could have something like a protein smoothie that you're making instead. I don't really like to use the word shake because it automatically puts into your head like the ultra processed, just scooper ones that you just scoop and then you shake and then you take with you on the go. But you can still have a very convenient, more whole food option that is going to use something like protein powder that is also balanced with whole food ingredients, like using chia seeds for fiber or even edible basil seeds and flax seeds, using low glycemic load berries, foods that are going to be better from a micronutrient perspective and tend to have more satiating benefits because they are from a more whole food, less processed product. So that's where you can use something like smoothies, which I have, you guys know, I have so many smoothies, so many high protein smoothie recipes on YouTube, on my blog. I have a whole cookbook just on high protein smoothies. And then, of course, smoothies that are in this year's meal plan. So those are all great options if you do like the convenience of a meal replacement shake, but you want to actually have it serve your goals. That is, using a high protein smoothie with these nutrient dense ingredients is a much, much, much better swap. But on the flip side, watch out for things like protein bars, protein cereals, protein chips, protein crackers. They're still just ultra processed ingredients, still just very, very ultra processed foods. Just look at the ingredients label, see if there's actual whole foods that you can recognize that make up the majority of the ingredients. Most likely it's not. And in the case of protein bars, it's usually also going to be high in sugar too, which is not going to be as supportive of your goals. So just watch out for all of those. Instead, again, focusing on the thing, if you need something quick and easy, like this protein smoothies or like the chia pudding recipe from this year's program. There's actually two chia pudding recipes in this year's program. Those take like seconds to prep and you can make multiple for the entire week. And it's going to be high in protein, fat, and fiber to support your goals and still be really transportable and really easy to bring with you on the go. And you don't have to be a chef in order to make it. And you're going to feel way more full and satisfied with those types of ingredients too. Okay. And then next up, we have remove the other ultra processed foods. So the ultra processed, the main like culprits that I've seen are things like candy, soda, sweetened coffee and tea, cakes, cookies, chips, crackers, gummies, even like gummy supplements are surprisingly high in sugar, especially if you're going to be having multiple of those different types of vitamins or supplements in gummy forms. Like let's say you take a multivitamin as a gummy, you also take the creatine gummies, you also might take like a fish oil gummy. I actually don't even know if they have that, but if you take multiple different types, and this, you could get anywhere between 3 to 6 grams of added sugar for each one of those. That could be like 18 extra grams of sugar that you're getting just from your supplements alone. So watching out for things like gummies, using powders or capsules when you're able to instead, or something like the Gem multivitamin, which I'm a big fan of as well. And then looking out for chips, crackers. Those are easy items for us to just eat mindlessly without feeling satisfied at all. And I am a total victim of this too. I completely understand how easy it can be to eat like an entire bag of chips. Growing up in Southern California, chips, salsa, guacamole, like that is our comfort food. And I could easily go through like one of those big restaurant style like things of tortilla chips because they have no satiety value to them. And that's because they are going to be more ultra processed or use more ultra processed ingredients that make it so easy to eat well beyond our body's needs. And that can bypass a lot of the benefits that eating more protein has. So addressing in your diet where some of these might sneak in. Maybe it's like your daily vanilla Starbucks latte. That one again for me was like kind of big in college too. I definitely would have that. Actually, I was more of a fan of like the eggnog lattes, which is way worse. But yeah, looking for your coffees if you're adding sugar in there, if you're a soda fan, trying to reduce or remove that as well. And then of course, even the obvious ones like candy or cakes or cookies, those all of course add up. But from what I've seen, the sneaky ones that most people tend to miss are going to be like the gummy vitamins, the chips, and the crackers. Okay. And then one pro tip, if you are using my programs, I just wanted to point out if you guys haven't seen this or if this is one of your first challenges, just always check the ingredient swaps that I have on the recipes. So you can see like up here, here, let me make this bigger for you guys. Like here's an example from this year's meal plan. So you can see like right here, I have the little emojis that are associated with different protocols from the Level Up Guide. But you can see that there are adjustments depending on what your goals are. So like the little broccoli one is for the weight loss protocol or the advanced weight loss strategy rather, especially if you are carb sensitive. So check for those swaps. Like for this one, it talks about swapping out the tortillas for thinly sliced jicama for the more crunchy option, romaine lettuce, or full cabbage leaves, or like perhaps you're on the opposite end and you are more active, or maybe your husband's more active and you're working toward a fat loss goal, you can use both of these swaps for each other so you can have the same meal while also having it be more tailored to your specific body's needs and your goals. So that's just a pro tip to look out for. Some of them are great for all goals, but some do have like specific swaps based on what your goal are. And always check those to see if it's something that you need to swap out. Okay, guys. So if you have not already grabbed the 6-week summer meal plan, like I mentioned, there's only a couple weeks left before it's gone. So many brand new recipes, such great information. It's all focused on body composition, of losing fat while maintaining muscle, but also while doing it in a sustainable, nourishing way to eat the healthiest foods that your body really can in order to give them micronutrients to thrive for the long term. So if you want that program and all the recipes before it's gone for good, make sure you grab it, link down description below. Otherwise, I'm going to go through and answer some questions. So if you have some questions, just put 4 question marks before and after, and it's a lot easier for me to find it. Oh, wow. Leanne lost 35 pounds from following Autumn Bates, kept off for 14 months now. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So 5'2", age 38. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Email us. I want to hear more. Oh, that's a good tip. So we have Simply Curly said, I cut the soda with seltzer water. Fantastic. Okay, here's a good question. So Cherished Homestead said, I have become addicted to the 4505 pork rinds, and I have a feeling this is derailing my progress. They have lots of protein, but it is highly processed and have way less nutritional value. Yeah, so this is something where I love that brand too. Like their jalapeno cheddar got me through my first pregnancy. So good. It is such a better swap to just regular tortilla chips because it is going to provide glycine, which is a very important amino acid. It's also going to provide some protein too. So it should theoretically be more satiating. However, if you find that you're using it in the same way as chips, and if you are finding that's hard to stop, then I would experiment with just removing those and just focusing on some of those other higher quality proteins, and like the ground beef or chicken or Greek yogurt or skyr, eggs, and see how your body responds. Do that for like 1 or 2 weeks and just see if that don't change anything else. Just make that one change of removing the 4505 pork rinds and see if you're able to break through your plateau. If so, then you know that might have been the culprit, and that maybe that's something to introduce just a couple times per week rather than on a daily basis. Okay. Another question. So Impossible Burger isn't as good as a beef burger. No, definitely not. When you look at the protein quality, that's one place that we could start. Just the Diaz score. The Diaz score, beef is going to have a much higher Diaz score than something like an Impossible Burger or like just all of the various fake meat options. Generally speaking, if it's from a whole animal-based food, it's going to have a higher Diaz than any type of processed plant-based food. So it's a good rule of thumb, but also just from a micronutrient perspective, the highly processed type of fake meat is going to be so poor, so stripped and lacking in those micronutrients that are not only important for creating energy in the body, using fat as fuel, but also, again, for the long term health and wellness goal as well. Like beef, for example, is very rich in iron, a bioavailable iron, and especially women have higher needs for the most part as men than men. So that's one example of just like a micronutrient difference where something like a beef burger is going to be so much more valuable than something like an Impossible Burger. Thanks for your free protein calculator. Such a huge help. You're welcome. It's a great resource, guys. Definitely check it out. Again, it is linked down description below. Okay, Dawn, my protein goal is like 160. I've been using whole milk in smoothies with Greek yogurt and protein powder. Would you recommend using almond milk or another alternative? Maybe the milk is too fatty. Not necessarily. If it depends on if you're not seeing progress, and that could be a swap you could try. And just make sure you're accounting for the lost protein from the whole milk and increasing it from either the protein powder or the Greek yogurt. So if you are at a plateau, you could try that out. But if you have other things going on, other of those like quote protein mistakes, like if you have more ultra processed foods in your diet, that would be the first place I would fiddle with and experiment with, because that's going to have a much bigger impact. You can, if you're already removed all the ultra processed foods, then you can experiment with swapping out the whole milk and using something like almond milk to help get more of that balance in protein a little bit higher. But I would first look at the ultra processed foods first. Okay, Smiley Girl says, I was told a gram per pound of body weight. That is one. I mean, there's a big range, a spectrum of how much protein is considered a higher protein intake. That is certainly considered a higher protein intake. And for some people, that is an amount that would work for their goals. From what research has shown, it's usually going to be falling in the range of 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, which is less than 1 gram per pound of body weight. A lot of people will use that 1 gram per pound of body weight because it's just an easy calculation and it's easy to remember. And a lot of people will usually fall short of that anyway and fall into that category of 1.2 to 1.6 because it can be difficult to eat that much protein to get that 1 gram per pound of body weight. But if you want like a more specific guideline, that again, for most people, the research is showing is going to be ideal for their goals, then you can check out that free protein calculator I have. Based on what your activity level is, it will give you a range of between 1.2 to 1.6, depending on what the information you provide it. Okay, this isn't really a question, but something that I want to touch on. So, Smiley Girl said, "Hello, thank you for this. I've gone completely clean lately. I'm hitting my protein macros, but I still have cravings. I just keep going for walks. LOL. Thank you for your videos." So, depending on how long this has been going on, there's a couple things you could do. One, if it's just been like a couple days or maybe a week, then it could just be your body sort of detoxing from some of those sugars because it can take a little bit of time for your tongue or your taste buds to reset and make it so that you aren't constantly craving like sugars or anything like that. So if it's been like a week or less, then I would say just push through it first and do what you can in order to ignore those cravings and hit your protein amount. And then see if you still have those cravings once you've gotten over that hump, usually about a week. But if it's been longer than a week, then this is where I would suggest looking at your fiber amount. I have a video coming out soon on this because it's been such a game changer for me with my own postpartum weight loss journey. I've been really focusing on increasing my fiber along with my protein. I'm hitting probably about 35 to 40 grams of fiber from whole food sources, not from supplements, a day. And I feel so dang satisfied along with my higher protein intake that I don't feel hungry at all. Like we have a couple bars of Hue chocolate, which is so good and so addictive in our fridge. And I open my fridge every day and see it every day. And I don't even feel the urge to have that chocolate bar, which is crazy because if you guys have been following me for a while, you know I love my chocolate. So having enough fiber along with your protein is another little like pro tip. So if you wanted to increase your fiber, great sources of that would be something like having a half cup to a cup of black beans, for example. That's what I've been personally using to really up my fiber amount. And it's a low glycemic load if you keep it to 1 cup or lower. or having things like chia seeds or edible basil seeds. Having things like the chia pudding is a great option. Adding in like chia seeds or edible basil seeds, or having raspberries in your smoothie is another great option. So just finding ways to sneak in whole food sources of fiber is another good little tip. Okay, let me see if there's any more. Mm. Yeah, I've talked about this in the past. So, um, I struggle to meet my protein needs because I'm hardly hungry. I can fast 24 hours or do OMAD. So, some people are just so responsive to protein where they get such a spike in something like GLP-1 or peptide YY or CCK, the various satiety satiety hormones that tell your brain you're full, you're satisfied, and you don't need to keep eating. Some people get really big bumps in that. And if you're able to continue to maintain progress with eating slightly less than perhaps what you were trying to hit, and you're also not losing muscle mass, so using something like an in-body machine every 2 weeks to see how your muscles changing, making sure it's not going down as you're losing body fat, then it's okay to be slightly short of whatever your protein goal is. But if you find that it's causing you to lose muscle because you are eating such a low amount of protein, then this is where adding in maybe some of those slightly less satiating proteins could be a good idea for you. So having more of like the protein powders that you're adding into your smoothies, or having like, you could use something like some of like the proteins from milk, for example, that isn't going to be quite as satiating as like ground beef. So you could experiment with some of those slightly less satiating proteins and see if that helps you to hit your protein needs and prevent the muscle loss while also still maintaining progress. Okay, I'm going to answer a couple more questions. Okay, Mika forgot to finish my question. When dealing with the plateau, where do you suggest we first need to look in our plans? Protein, fat, carbs, or shift our exercising? So I would say the very, very first thing is to assess your protein, because that can have a lot of downstream benefits to make sure that you're actually hitting your protein needs. When you eat enough, it can make it so that you don't get the cravings that perhaps you might have had that could be derailing your results, or perhaps it could be helping you hold on to muscle that you were otherwise losing in the past, and therefore help you to maintain your metabolism while you're losing weight. But almost equivalent to that is also looking at your ultra processed food intake, because that can really, really, really derail the benefits of eating more protein. So taking a look at if there's any snacks that maybe are sneaking into your meals, or if there's treats that are sneaking into your meals, like baked goods or cereals or chips, crackers, trying to think of some candy, chocolate, sweetened drinks, sodas, the sweetened coffees. Take a look at all of those others as well, because if you are hitting your protein needs, but you're still eating those other ultra processed foods, that can just completely bypass any benefit that eating more protein would have, at least from a fat loss perspective. So those would be the two biggest places to look first. Mm, okay. Okay. Leanne, a lot of YouTubers in the health world have recently been saying negative things about intermittent fasting, specifically for women. I personally disagree with them. Does this solely depend on age? I think across the board, just intermittent fasting has always had criticism, like anything in nutrition. There's always going to be people who have seen great results and maybe others who haven't. But from my experience, a lot of people who have negative results with intermittent fasting aren't using intermittent fasting properly. They're either using extended fast, so fasting for like 20 hours or longer, which is very hard to fit in all of your nutrient needs in 4 hours or less. And so that could make it so you fall into the same issues of just eating a very, very, very low calorie diet, which could slow your metabolism, could just completely wreck your hormones too. Doesn't always mean that it's going to happen. The biggest thing is just if you are not able to eat enough during that small period of time, then that could have a lot of negative downstream impacts. But in the same way that just not eating enough in general can have a lot of negative downstream impacts. What I have found to be best for most people is a intermittent fast between 12 to 16 hours. So you're still eating between 12 to 8 hours a day. You can get so many amazing benefits just with this alone. I've shared so many stories on YouTube. I've interviewed quite a few people on YouTube, also on my blog. If you go to like this inspiring story section, there's even somebody like Gilan, which I think I saw her in the chat. I'm not sure, who saw a lot of progress in the beginning, just even with a 12-hour fast. So having this more time restricted eating approach, and then making sure you're also eating the right types of foods when you do go to eat. So having those 3 meals, focusing on eating protein, fat, and fiber, all of that is going to help build upon the benefits of the intermittent fast as well. So especially if you are using the right timing for intermittent fasting, I've talked about early time restricted feeding. So this is where you break your fast earlier in the day and you end it earlier as well. So you're not, breaking your fast at noon and ending it at like 10. And instead maybe you're breaking your fast at like 10 a.m. and stopping it at, or starting it again at like 6 p.m. That's a more reasonable approach, so that you're also able to get the benefits of balancing the circadian rhythm too. So just saying across the board intermittent fasting isn't good, that's just not accurate. There's so much research showing that there's so many great benefits, especially when done the right way, but it has to be done the right way. And just remember, intermittent fasting is a tool. It's not the only tool. And if you're just using intermittent fasting to achieve your goals, you're not going to see sustainable long-term results, because you're not addressing the food timing within your eating window, and just the quality of that food as well. So if you have not already checked out, I have the 21-day intermittent fasting program that goes deep dive into all of this. Highly recommend you check it out. I've had this program and updated it over the years. It's been around for 8 years now, I think, with thousands of people using it, and uses these types of protocols to optimize your intermittent fast, but balance it with making sure that it's going to support circadian rhythms and be more optimized for a fat loss goal, and not just trying to purely restrict calories. So that is on my website. If you want to check it out, it's at autumnlnutrition.shop. So autumn, ELLE, nutrition.shop. But great question, because it's true. You can have pretty horrible results with intermittent fasting if you do it wrong. That is why I first came out with the 21-day intermittent fasting program 8 years ago for that exact reason, because especially women, we are so sensitive to the state of starvation or semi-starvation. And if you're just simply cutting your calories or also using intermittent fasting wrong, then it can result in some negative impacts to female hormones, especially. Okay. Sandra, something I always wondered: if I reach my weight I want to stay at, how do I stay in that weight? So one great tool I like to use, well, depends on your activity level, but one great tool that I like to use is starting to incorporate like one, maybe two servings of medium, or even, depends on your goal, a high glycemic load carbohydrate per day, because this helps you to eat a little bit more so your body is able to maintain that weight. But it's also not going to be something that totally derails your results. It's still going to give you the micronutrients your body needs, and it's still going to keep you satisfied as well. But you do have to make sure you're doing it strategically. So if you are following something like my 6-week summer meal plan, you could try either just using the recipes as is, or whenever it has the athlete swap. So like you'll see the little flex emoji, and whenever it has one of those like ingredient swaps to use to promote more of an athletic goal, you could try adding that in as well to help support maintenance. I go a lot more in detail, or like how you could adjust your meals and like what that would look like on a plate in the body recomposition program. It's actually combined. You can get it combined with the 6-week summer meal plan in the beginner bundle. It's still in the shop right now. So again, grab that before the beginner bundle is gone. It's down. You can find it on my shop. It's not linked down below, but if you find it at autumnlnutrition.shop, it's there. Melissa, do fiber needs increase with increased activity or age? No, activity and age shouldn't increase it. It should stay pretty steady. It's not something, it's not like protein, for example, where protein does increase as we age, because as we age, our body gets both less efficient at breaking down and absorbing protein. So we need more to break through that inefficiency. But we also have an increased rate that our muscles and our bones are breaking down. So we actually have even higher protein needs. So it's that combination of your body can't absorb it as well, and you have higher needs on top of that. So you need a lot more protein than perhaps you did when you were younger. But with fiber, it doesn't go like linearly like that, where you need to have more as you age. It's usually pretty much a stagnant level. It might go up and down depending on where your gut health goals are at. Like, for example, if you have SIBO, then it's probably not a good idea to eat a lot of fiber at the moment, because that could actually cause some issues for your gut while it's healing. But that's more of like specific to a health condition and not your age or activity level. Annie, I've been pretending my gummy vitamins don't count for anything as far as sugar. I'm still ruminating about that. I know. It can really add up, though. It's pretty surprising and shocking, especially if you have multiple different types of supplements that you're taking in gummy form. Something else to keep in mind, I don't know if you guys saw my latest video on creatine, but I talk about the creatine gummies specifically and how there has been research lately showing that the gummies, when they tested different creatine gummies on the market, there were quite a few that had very low levels of creatine that wasn't actually close to what they advertise as having. And this is because the creatine can break down during the process of making the gummies. And it's just hard to actually figure out, like when you're mixing creatine in with something like gummies to make the gummies, some could settle. So it could get like some batches will have more creatine, some will have a lot less. Some, I don't remember the specific amount, but I think there's one brand that had like less than 1% of what it stated. Don't quote me on that, but I remember it was a lot lower than what the nutrition facts said. So that's another reason why I don't know if it translates to all gummies across the board with other types of supplements, but in general, gummies just aren't going to usually be as effective and usually come with the added cost of added sugar than just taking capsules or powders. Okay, I'm going to see if there's like one more question. Oh, okay, maybe 2 questions. This is a good one. Okay, so not this isn't a question, but Crystal said, "Oh my god, yes, I can't wait for the fiber video. I recently had a doctor's appointment and I was told to increase my fiber intake. It was suggested to take a psyllium husk. I'm interested in learning." So I that video I'm talking about, my experience with especially adding in black beans is coming soon. But if you are curious about fiber and my thoughts on fiber and where things like psyllium husk come in, I do have a video where I rate all the different fiber foods. And I think I even do mention psyllium husk in there as well, and my thoughts on things like psyllium husk. So if you go, you should just be able to type into YouTube like Autumn Bates fiber list, I think, and it should pop up. But I do like a tier list and rate all the different food sources of fiber. Mm. Okay, another great question. So I know we're not talking about intermittent fasting, but it seems like there's quite a few questions about intermittent fasting today. So Bess said, I want to go back to intermittent fasting, but I don't want to skip breakfast anymore. I also can't skip dinner because I work out after work and what I need to eat after that. Solutions. Yes. Use 3 meals. Intermittent fasting, this is where understanding how to actually use intermittent fasting can completely be a game changer, because it's not just skipping a meal, it's eating during a smaller period of time. So rather than eating your 3 meals or grazing throughout the day, you're eating those same amount of meals just during a smaller window. That allows for more gut rest. It allows for insulin to come down in between the or during that fasting period and also in between meals. So it's really important, if you are going to use intermittent fasting, you know how to use it properly, because there's so many misconceptions and so many ways to do it wrong. I've never done the approach of having 2 meals during intermittent fast. I've always used a 3 meal structure. That's how I used it with my clients, with myself during my own gut healing process. And it's magical. It can really be magical, and where you can still see those benefits having 3 meals and not actually, quote, skipping a meal. That is a very common misconception people have about intermittent fasting, that you have to skip a meal in order to intermittent fast. So I have over 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel. I have so many on intermittent fasting. If you want to check those out, really, you can dive deep into the topic there. But if you want to go straight into the details of how to actually use intermittent fasting and just an exact plan of what to do, make sure you check out the 21-day intermittent fasting program. It's on my website, autumnlnutrition.shop. Autumn, ELLE, nutrition.shop. A really, really, really great and important resource if you do want to use intermittent fasting and you want to actually use it sustainably in a way that will support your goals long term. Okay, guys, I'm not sure if you can hear. I'm like getting hoarse from talking so much. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We have one more week of the challenge after this. So we have another live stream on Monday. And then if you have not already grabbed the limited release 6-week summer meal plan, make sure you grab it because it's only available for a very short time longer. And there's so much great information in there, 50 brand new recipes, over 50 brand new recipes actually, that are focused on protein rich meals that are rich in fiber as well, and high quality sources of fat that are focused on getting the micronutrients to support long-term health and nourishment, and your overall wellness goals. So, and the 6 weeks of meal planning, of course. It's what we're following right now, but you can use it at any time. But it's only available for the next couple until like next Sunday. So make sure you grab it before it's gone. It's linked down description below. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll be seeing you next Monday for the week 6 live stream.